talk about costs, cost of doing business. The cost of doing business is quite high sometimes because you see you have to comply with the standards, you have to pay the taxes, you have to purchase. I mean, there's many barriers that they face. There's logistical challenges as well. And when you bring all those things together, then you have to think about access to finance as well. Then how do we also access these markets? Because you can hear that maybe there are opportunities in Uganda or Tanzania or in the UK or in the EU because there are certain agreements that exist, but you don't know how to access this information and how to access this market. So then again, that makes trade a bit challenging as well. Then there's also standards, as we've mentioned. Standards are important, but there is a cost associated with being able to comply with the standards because there are things that you're supposed to do probably sometimes at the farm level or some certain tests or certain equipment you need to be able to verify that those goods are good for trading. And that has a cost in itself. Then there's also issues on capacity building and how do you scale. A business might be ready to move to the next level, but they do not know how do we get to the next level in terms of what information is needed. They also lack mentors and people to give them guidance on how to maneuver and problem solve as well. So these issues then mean that only few people are able to participate in exports and big business. So many of the businesses and individuals are pushed more to informal businesses because then the cost of compliance is quite high. And so that's what we have seen.
You mentioned something about the rebrand that, of course, TMA once had. I remember when you were starting around 2010, it was Trademark East Africa.
Yes.
Right now it's Trademark Africa. So why was the shift necessary from Trademark East Africa to Trademark Africa?
That's a very good question. I would say we started with a smaller mandate because Trademark Africa is a very unique organization. There are not many trade facilitation organizations that exist in Africa with that core focus of Africa. And so when we started with the Trademark East Africa, we wanted to test and see, okay, if we improved the physical infrastructure, if we did some work on the policy space as well, we brought a bit of digitization, could we see exports increase? And at the same time, when we were implementing our programs in that period, the system and the market was also shifting. Many things came into play. The Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement came into play around 2018. So a lot of shifts were happening. And then this whole conversation on Africa trading with each other in terms of how do we build regional value chains, how do we make Africa more competitive and increase Africa trade with each other, then also gave light and opportunity for us to think about what we have already done within East Africa is quite commendable because we have been able to make investments that have resulted in a reduction in costs and a reduction of time spent doing trade. And yet we are seeing other African countries still struggling with similar challenges. And so we thought, what if we took our mandate and increased our scope into West Africa, into Southern Africa? So the name now had outlived its period, and now we are Trademark Africa. So we started in 2010. First with Kenya and then growing into other East African countries, and now we are in 18 countries. So hence the shift in name. Then of course COVID also did influence and change the way we do trade with each other. And we thought about, okay, when COVID hit, there was a lot of barriers, borders that were closed. There were borders that were closed into other international markets, and the borders are closed within Africa as well. And we are very dependent on the external markets as well because we are largely importing. Then we thought, okay, we need to increase the opportunity. And now the FCFTA really did come into play. We need to increase the opportunity for us to trade with each other because we trust each other to some level. Yes, we have standards. Yes, we have other policies, but some of them tend to converge at some point. So how do we make that really work for us within the African context as well? Then again, having been implementing trade facilitation programs for about a decade at that point, we had a lot of learnings and experiences that we believe we could be able to pick up and be able to scale in other countries who maybe still require one-stop border posts to be developed, require some physical connectivity, require digitization of systems in terms of revenue collection as well. And so that was what brought this into play. But we continue to focus largely on the trade corridors because from experience, we have seen that any investments we made along the trade corridors has resulted in increase in trade. For example, we have been able to see a 15% increase in terms of trade with communities around the corridor where we've made improvements and where we focus on, compared to growth that happens probably in areas which are very far from the trade corridors, where you see a 4% increase in trade compared to those who are on the trade corridors, because it means that there's a lot of activity that's happening, a lot of economic activity. And that brings also other questions on and that have also influenced us. What can we be able to do to bring trade into other areas which are not along the trade corridors as well, in terms of development of agricultural value chains as well, and being able to work with the communities around that.
So what are you able to do, and what are you trying to do just to also bring these people who are not in the corridors, like you say,